All right, let's jump in. Yes, it is 1 p.m. Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world. We here at WizCommerce are very excited to welcome everybody to today's masterclass. We're going to be jumping into our WizStudio product and having a discussion about that platform and just AI in photography in general. We'll do a quick round of introductions. I'm John, Senior Director of Sales over here at WizCommerce, and I'm thrilled to be joined by two of our customers. I've got Bree from Howard Elliott and Kerri from Ganz, and would love if they would just take a minute, each of them, to introduce themselves. I'd start with you, Kerri.
Hi, I'm Kerri Christman. I'm currently located in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Just a bit about my background. I started out in graphic design and then moved into marketing. And I originally started in the business to consumer world and then moved over to the B2C world. Back then, it was pretty much analog. Everything, photography was film to print. We used art boards, printing catalogs with film, and it was a really long manual process. From there, the industry changed to desktop publishing and digital photography, and digital printing. And then that brings us to today, where we have wonderful AI tools that's really transforming the world, not only in photography and the print world, but in really every aspect. So that's a little bit about myself and excited to be invited to this and share with you our experiences to date.
Awesome. Thank you, Kerri. Bree?
Hi, everybody. I'm Bree Cassidy. I'm the marketing coordinator for Howard Elliott. I've been at Howard Elliott for 3 years now. I started in merchandising for textiles and e-commerce, and then came over to the Howard Elliott team, where I went into marketing. My background in education is in marketing, so I was really glad to finally get kind of that title over here. The last few years we've been really inundated with AI. Before that, it was similar to Kerri, very paper, very print. But it feels like the last year, 6 months has just been one new AI tool after another, and we've loved it and we've really adopted it, and we really enjoy WizStudio. So I'm honored to be here and excited to talk about it.
Yeah. Well, thank you both. We wanted to. I think it's great to have different perspectives, right? I think Kerri, you come from the perspective more of managing a team there at Ganz that kind of oversees several different people, and you kind of having to look at it from a zoomed out perspective, and then from more the gifting side of the industry, and then Bree. I know you live and breathe these tools, and you're in a bunch of them every single day. And then looking forward to getting your perspective from more the home decor furniture side. So let's dive into it. I guess three primary topics that we're hoping to cover with the panelists today are, first and foremost, to kind of already sneak peeked it a little bit here, but we want to discuss kind of start from the perspective of discussing the traditional photography and kind of the problems with traditional photography, and why companies are even looking at AI and making the shift to it and using tools like WizStudio. Second, we're going to dive deep into how WizStudio, a platform like WizStudio, is actually used in the day-to-day for product photography, including several different use cases and covering different categories of product as well, and features that have surprised and wowed a lot of our customers. And then lastly, we'll get into a discussion about some return on investments and kind of the business impact that these tools are having today. So I think a lot of the mystery around AI, and this is we can tell that this is a hot button topic just by the response to this masterclass. And I think a lot of it has to do with how much we're all inundated every single day with AI this, AI that. So we're excited to actually show you how it can directly impact the business today. Um, so I think with that, let's jump right in. I wanted to, in this first part, we wanted to dive in kind of what did the old world look like? What was that traditional product photography It's been the standard, Kerri, as you mentioned, that has been the standard for decades, for a very long time. I think it did come with some significant challenges, as you alluded to already. But I would say, could you walk us through in a little bit more detail, kind of what that traditional photography process looked like for you all at Ganz, and what pain
Sure,
point you thought that brought along?
sure. I mean, AI, as far as the introduction in using generative photography or AI was really the catalyst for me was our shipping costs started rising and rising from our overseas vendors. And it was that was the first, that was sort of mid last year. It was really challenging. And I think that's coming off of the pandemic as well. Things have really changed since the pandemic. But really, we rely so much on physical samples from our vendors and traditional photography. And I should say, we have our own in-house photography studio. So we would, if it was a feature shot, which means it would have more than 3 items, we would always have to wait for a sample to come in before we could shoot the feature shots. So that was a challenge. I mean, receiving the products and then unpacking the products, cleaning the products, tagging the products, putting it on the rack for our photo studio to get. And then there's set production, stylist, searching for props, building environments, construction, booking models, booking makeup artists. And then that also meant that before a shot was approved, we had to keep the setup. And we don't have a large area. So it was challenging. We did have bottlenecks, but the introduction mid last year when you showed it to me was exciting because now it meant we could not have to wait for a vendor shipment. I met with our PD teams and said, if you're overseas buying, send me a photo with your phone. And that really started, we saw changes and exciting changes because what would take possibly up to 3 hours, maybe a day, we can now do and get it approved within 30 minutes. So it's a huge game changer and exciting that we can really create visuals that we wouldn't have been able to before. Baby models, sourcing baby models, all of that has really changed. And we're so excited. I mean, not just our products, but now we're expanding into our product development teams. So, just recap of the pain points: vendor shipping delays, production delays because of not getting a sample, the high cost of shipping samples, receiving a sample and maybe it wasn't correct and having to wait for an additional sample to come from our vendor. I mean, now we can go in and using WizStudio, we can adjust the sample and now use that image and send it back to the vendor to say, this is the way we want it. So it's really flexible. It just really eliminates a lot of the bottlenecks we have. And it's so exciting because it's rapidly changing weekly and it's great.
Well, love to hear it. So I think, Kerri, those are a lot of the common pain points that we hear all over the place with traditional photography. It limits you. Not only is it expensive and time consuming, but it limits your options overall as a business for how much photography you can even offer. So thank you for that. I mean, Bree, I would love to hear your perspective as well, just focusing on the kind of the traditional photo shoots and kind of the limiting factor there and what pain
Yeah,
points you all struggled with.
we have very similar pain points to Kerri, where at one point, like when I first started and we first started all of this, it was Howard Elliott is located in Chicago. So I have to fly to Chicago. I have to manage the photography session. We have to have samples come in from vendors. If it's wrong, we have to wait for them to come back. Like there's a lot of different factors that go into getting samples and getting them ready for market or to put on the website to sell or anything. We don't have a large studio, so we didn't have the pain points of having to do construction or set up any of those sort of things. But We had a photographer who would come in and do the regular white background silo shots for us. But then that takes time. So we have 2 days, we have to have our warehouse pull all of the samples, gather them all in our studio, have a photographer come in for 2 days and shoot, or 3 days and shoot all of the samples that they can. And then it takes, weeks to get those edits back. So we're working on market cycles, so High Point and Vegas and things like that. And when you're working on those, you have to then work backwards. So it's, so many months ahead of time where you're scheduling your photography, 3 weeks for editing, 2 weeks sometimes, and then having to get lifestyle shots done. So we don't have scenes, so we have to have like outsourced people to do graphics. So either photoshopping things in or, trying to use something different to be able to create a lifestyle scene. And then also going through and creating line drawings is a very manual process. I'm in Photoshop drawing a line in each and tagging things in, and it's all very manual. And we started out this process in 6 months ago, getting samples done and photography done from our phones, and then editing everything, and it's done in 250 samples can be finished in a month, a few weeks with full photography and full data and everything else. And it's really, really changed the game. It took time. You have to take time and get a process together for how this is going to work with your team. It's just me and a couple of other people that really handle all of this. So having a tight process done is really important. And I think we've finally kind of nailed that down. And now we're working with our vendors and our factories, and they're taking pictures and uploading them to systems, and we're able to kind of get a better process going for how our silo development is done. And, WizStudio has been a really big help in that, with being able to do things multiple pieces at a time, or just kind of having the right prompt in the right place to be able to get you something in the first go around. And it's been a really, really significant difference. I mean, we've been able to take months of work and turn it into weeks, depending
Weeks.
on the items.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think to quickly, and this is exactly what we hear across the board from most folks is, and to quickly recap, it's it's a question of resource constraints. Everybody, I think you both can speak to this as well. Everyone we talk to, they're small teams that are typically focused on solving a very big problem, and product photography is that. So having those internal resource constraints, it's not just about the money and time, but it's even just having the people available to do it. And then traditional photography, of course, is expensive, and so now with the across photography fees, the studio time, hiring models, shipping product, as you both have mentioned. Now you can save time. One person is able to accomplish much more than before. So this is a constant trend, and I think it's one that's only going to accelerate, as you both have already mentioned. And I experience it every single day. These tools are advancing at such a rapid pace. It seems that week over week, there are significant enhancements that are constantly happening. But I did want to actually, this thought just crossed my mind as you both were speaking, and I get mixed opinions. So I just quickly wanted to get your opinion. I get this question a lot, like does something like WizStudio or any AI photography tool, do you all envision it completely replacing photo shoots? Do you feel photo shoots are still applicable in certain situations? Kerri, I'll kind of start with you.
Right now, it's a blend for us. And I think we're still on a learning curve. I wouldn't say I'd be prepared to eliminate our photo studio completely. We're still, I mean, we have a lot of product and we have a lot of brands. So it's at this point, I would say it's a blend, and we would continue to have it as a blend, but there's certain brands that we feel it's applicable, like our a fashion apparel is, WizStudio is great for that. Having to get models in, having again to create sets, and getting the product sample, and maybe the jacket is shorter or longer than we received. I mean, it did require Photoshop work. So in this case, it's a perfect example of how we can use WizStudio. In other areas, ornaments, Christmas tree ornaments, putting them on a tree when we've got maybe 50. I think the studio is still where I would keep it right now. But we're starting to incorporate it. We see benefits. Shipping, as I said, it was really ignited by the cost of shipping product. And that was the catalyst to make the change. And we've already seen our shipping costs dramatically decrease. So that's a trend that I want to keep.
Right. That's great.
Our ours
And
is
Bree,
yeah, ours is a replacement. I mean, we were only doing it for kind of the seller shots anyways, so we don't have the full studio where we need to do a full lifestyle altogether. So, WizStudio really helps with the lifestyle portion of it. And then we have completely replaced our photography. It's a huge cost to have a photographer come in for what we need to then still outsource a bunch of work for lifestyles and everything else. And WizStudio has replaced that.
wow. Okay. I still from who I speak to, I think it's very much a mix. I think so to hear I hear more I think more on the side of what Kerri explained that it's replacing certain use cases or certain workflows, but that's interesting that you will have been able to
Yeah.
completely replace it,
Yeah.
replace photo shoots. And I guess Bree, to kind of piggyback, and I because I know you're like Miss AI when it comes to this stuff, and you use all the different tools. And so, if you could kind of walk us through, I think it'd be helpful for the audience too to hear how do you stay kind of on top of the like how do you know what tools to use? How are you able to educate yourself and kind of stay on top of the constantly shifting landscape with everything happening with AI?
It's definitely a juggle, and I definitely depend on your all's teams to kind of like help me figure out what is what. Like I know that there are you all do a really great job of having videos and different things to help kind of like a knowledge base so you can sort of learn like what's going on. But it's really nice that I can just email you all and have the team walk me through what is happening and then just playing in it to be able to learn for it myself. We didn't start out with WizStudio. We started out with a couple of other AI platforms. And, those have rapidly changed. And we kind of have a blend right now of everything that we're using. And some things are a little bit better and at certain things. And WizStudio is certainly starting to kind of trample everybody else. So, it will be nice one day to have everything in one kind of house, but I, it's a lot about having your strategy, like having your team and making sure that you have a good process for how you want things to work and making sure that the teams that you're working with, like WizStudio, are on top of it and capable of meeting with you and explaining how tools work and how things are going and what the new advancements are. And, like I'll definitely be wanting to walk through the video platform when that comes out. Like it's
Right.
one of those where you just have to rely on the fact that you have a good strategy and you have a good process with your team internally, but also that the teams that you're working with on the platforms are capable of letting you know when new things are coming out and letting you know how the tool works properly so you can use it to its best ability.
That's great. I think having having a process in place for something so new is a great point, and having people that are willing to dive in and actually use the tool themselves, but also just having even being able to because we here with student, this both of you all actually know this because you use the more the managed services they don't necessarily even just having a point person for that that's in charge of getting that feedback, reviewing it, and providing in a timely fashion having that collaborative back and forth can really help, and it has to be process oriented. So, Kerri, I would love to hear from your perspective because at Gans, I know you're more so managing the team that is working with WizStudio and using the tool on a day-to-day basis. So, could you give some insight into how you've kind of structured things at Gans in order to try to get the most out of a tool like WizStudio?
Sure. And we really are, it's a change of process, and even job function. depending on what your role is within the company. So that we're still wrapping our head around. But we did see a shift. I mean, we had a photographer that moved on, and I replaced that role with photo AI lead is the person's title. And that's sort of our first step in really understanding how we accept. I mean, because again, it's a production process, how we accept images rather than samples, how they fit into our system, a naming, how we name them, etc. So it involves many people to come up with that strategy, and we're still talking about that, a folder system, etc. So that's in its infancy at this point in time. And as far as other photo generative AI, we were using Photoshop to do what we needed to do with our products, and WizStudio's miles ahead of that. So that's really where we are. I think we've started later than Bree did. So and we also probably have a lot more products and brands that we have to manage. So we're still wrapping our head around it.
It's
Yeah.
so process oriented. Like I had to write down everything that I do from step one to step two, like to A to Z basically, and then share that with teams. And it took us at least 4 months, 5 months maybe to get a really solid, like, here's how it starts, here's how it goes, here's where it's at, here's how it ends. And, we still, have moments where we hit roadblocks on that and have to kind of adjust and figure out where the time went wrong or something along those lines. So it's always a learning curve.
And it's also now, I mean, we're at the point where we've tested it, it works. We're starting to see great numbers coming back from sales. So now it's what's the next step? Where are we evolving to? And it's in our product development department. So that is the next step. And then it's how do we manage that? Do they manage it on their own? Do we start out with marketing, holding their hand? I don't know. That's the question I can't answer right now, but it's evolving, and it's growing rapidly within the company.
No, and that's great. And I think what I've seen be helpful is, I guess I agree 100%. You have to have a process in place, and you have to take the time to actually think through that, and have somebody dedicated to thinking that through. But I think with one of the biggest hurdles, I think, in today's age, and especially with AI, with how quickly it's changing, it's to just get people on board and get people kind of using the tool, and get people kind of acclimated to it and willing to dive into it. Um, and so I, and something that we'll get into here, I promise to the audience, that we're going to actually, this is not just a tell, but it's also a show. So I'm excited to show and tell. But I just quickly, if you all wouldn't mind, just diving into, how have you seen, people getting acclimated to the platform, diving into it, the willingness? How have you helped that along, and at each of the organizations, to be willing to dive into something new? And maybe I can start with I'll start with you, Kerri, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure. Um, well, I guess the one thing is it's really easy. You don't really need education to use the system. It's more learning sort of the folder system. We're still learning how a naming convention for our items to make it easy, and then expanding it to our product development teams, I think, is the next stage. How do we do that? So there is not a huge learning curve. I mean, I can jump on it anytime and figure something out. And if I want to do a test, I upload an image, and then I play around with it. So there's no huge learning curve. It's very, very easy.
That's great. Bree, I know you're kind of a party of one over there, but so how did you motivate yourself? yourself?
I'm pretty lucky in the way that, like, I can bring Brian is very, like, forward facing when it comes to new tools and having a lot of technology around that will help all of us kind of do our jobs more efficiently. So he's pretty easy to say, like, you just show him how great it is, and if the output is as great as what the person selling it is, then normally we get a good chance with it. So I'm pretty lucky in the aspect of not having to fight too hard to say like, this is really working, like this is doing really well. I think that this will make X, Y, and Z easier. And I think we've seen that. I think we've seen it in the cost savings. I think we've seen it in the output of our imagery, in our sales tools. Like we just did our newest lookbook, and I would say that 80% of it was from WizStudio pieces. So, I think we have the proof is in the pudding kind of like everything has been good, and it's easier to do when the tools that you're using are as good as they say that they're going to be.
Mhm.
I
And as I
love it.
said, we have somebody that is her role. She really hit the ground running. It's really easy. We've expanded it to our social media area, so they're now logging into it and creating different backgrounds for whatever the e-blast is for the week. So it's expanding slowly, um, but maybe not so slowly. I mean, we're really embracing it, and because I have a creative background, I find it really exciting. So for me, it makes boring numbers an exciting day.
Yeah.
Nice to be able to do something creative and make it and have it be easy. So I think with that, I also just want to highlight. I love it too, both for for Gans and Howard Elliott. I love when I see something on online, whether it be LinkedIn or some other platform. I'm like, oh, I recognize that. I know where that came from. So it's always fun to see that. But I mean, with that, I'm looking at the clock here. I want to keep us moving along. I think we can now get into more of the practical part. Would love to show everybody some sneak peek of the platform or walk through a few workflows. I think would kind of be helpful for everyone. So how we actually use WizStudio? Well, and then I'm going to walk through some of the capabilities, and then I'm going to have Kerri and Bree actually share some specific use cases and features that have worked really well for them. So just a brief kind of review and introduction again of WizStudio. We've designed it to help automate the product photography workflow. I think at its core too, something that we always try to mention to everyone we work with is that WizCommerce and WizStudio, by extension, they're geared towards this industry, right? When I say this industry, focused on B2B wholesalers and distributors, primarily across several different categories, being gift, home decor, lighting, furniture, apparel, and we're constantly expanding that. But those have always been kind of our core competency, and so I think our tool, as many have seen, and Kerri and Bree, you both can speak to this. The tool from has been designed with this industry in mind, and so we'll kind of showcase some different pieces of that and why we feel that's the case. So with that, I'm going to pop up my screen. Give me a second here and go through. Is that coming across for everybody?
There it is.
Might just take a minute. Alrighty. So and maybe within WizStudio, when I do load it up here, so this environment, it's been designed for an individual user to use. So as Kerri and Bree both mentioned, anyone can access this and generate content on their own. There, of course, is a managed services aspect of it as well. We've also got several different tools that are available to a user when they first log in. And I think, instead of me just going through the different functionality, I would just start with you, Bree. What do you see yourself most using when you get and pop into WizStudio?
I use the lifestyle generator pretty much every day.
Yeah, that's what we
So
see the most. And Kerri, I think that's also for your team. That goes probably without saying, I think. Lifestyle.
Probably.
Yeah. Perfect. That's what we see definitely by far the most used. There is some silhouette editing we can that can happen. and then background removal, doing some color correction. And then we've got a couple different bulk workflows, a variant builder and dimensional line drawings. So as you mentioned, Bree, manually adding those dimension that's a thing of the past, which I think for a lot of people will be a nice thing. So we'll go through and showcase a few of those here as well. So with that, let me go ahead and load up. Just in the interest of time, we have some kind of preset canvases. When I do upload product into WizStudio, I'm initially, when I upload an image, I'm taken to a canvas here where I can place my products. And I think Bree, I know you're a pro at this and have used it quite a bit. What is it about this canvas area that you think is beneficial for you, specifically looking at, home decor, especially, and how Howard Elliott goes to market?
This is the first tool that I've been able to use like this, where I've been able to multi-set products into one space and create kind of like a room scene for it. I think dimensional part of this is really important. I mean, you can obviously like place it and space it and whatever you need to do on the canvas to make it look like a room scene, but the dimensions on the side that you see in the capability of being able to say like what each individual piece is, how big it is, um, helps the AI a lot and alleviates me having to go in and then like fix little things here and there and say, okay, well, this lamp is only so tall, like I needed it to be this big and have to edit it and then go through. And the AI intelligence through here really goes in and makes it not look so static. So I appreciate that it will move things. Like sometimes it will turn artwork to kind of like a 3/4 angle on a wall so you can see the depth of it without you having to ask or try to place it on there. So I find that the like dimensional part of it and the knowledge of like what each individual piece is really helpful when creating like a full room scene like this.
Yeah. I think it's a great point. And here, as an example, we've got, I think if I counted correctly, there are 11 different products that are loaded onto this canvas at once. And to your point, every time I always tell people when we're uploading images into this canvas, you're taking little micro actions to help inform the AI as to what it should do and what kind of scene it should generate. So things like the sizing on the canvas, the dimensions, you have the ability to enter dimensions to get scaling, to get sizing correct, and then the categorization of product. That all helps. These little micro actions help to inform the AI, the sizing, the placement, and what the scene should be. So, no,
We
that's
love
helpful.
this tool for our home decor as well. And what is great about this is we would provide our product development department like maybe one feature shot because that's all we could handle in our photo studio. But the other issue that came up was if an item is discontinued or we're out of stock, we still have this static image. Where now we can go in and remove it and just rebuild the page, you rebuild the shot again and upload it. So, I mean, that's remarkable that we don't have to just, have an item that you can't click on and it doesn't bring up the information. We just remove it and reconfigure the shot again.
Yeah, the flexibility, which I
Mhm.
think we can showcase here as well. So let me let me take a step back. So once you're done with your canvas, you proceed to generation, and then this is where, and I'm just gonna uh, exit out of that, and then this is where I think we come up. This is where we want to help the user because not many of us are prompt experts. So, Bree would love, again, we'll circle back to you, kind of love your input at this stage. Once I've set my canvas, kind of how have you been able to interact with Studio in order to get the scene that you want to get?
Most of the time, the prompt that I'm given is sort of spot on to what I'm looking for. Um, it's very seldom that I have to go in and try to wizard something up. They most of the time have one of the four options on the right side there. Like they have something that is what I'm looking for. And the fact that they give you 4 kind of images once the prompt has been generated helps, because each one is slightly different. So sometimes I always end up like with something offhand. But if it happens and I don't find that the prompt is giving me what I want, I just brain dump basically into the like described scene and tell it everything that I want it to do. I want it to be a dark room or a light room, and I want it to have this flooring and this is what I need here. And I just kind of give it a long script of everything that I can possibly think of that I might want in the room, and then enhance it using the little enhance feature, and then it gives me a more suitable prompt for what the AI can generate. I have used the reference image part a couple of times. You all have pretty decent reference images. Sometimes I'll use ones that we've created in the past that we might want to make, and that will help. But mostly I either type everything that I'm thinking out into there and have it enhanced, or whatever you all have given me in the suggested scenes is spot on.
Yeah. And just to showcase that, I just typed in very basic here just to see what it spits out at me, but living room with mid-afternoon lighting, right? And then what the AI is able to do with just enhancing that scene, you see how descriptive. So it flowers it up for me. So that's what you're speaking to. Of course, we also have the suggested scenes, like you mentioned, along the side here. And then you have reference images. So a lot of our brands that we work with will have already an existing kind of vibe or environment in mind. So we give a lot of optionality here. Kerri, any feedback from you and the Ganz team as to what you've seen work best for you all?
Yeah, I think I think as Bree, we use the same thing, but we learned at the beginning the more specific you can be and more detailed, the better output. Um, but we do sort of have the scripts as well, like indoor, outdoor, room type, season, natural lighting, hard lighting, soft lighting, camera direction sometimes is specific. Sometimes we have a low angle, high angle, or overhead angle. We shoot a lot of our platters and things like that. So, or depth of field, if we want the background of the shot in focus or out of focus. So, we're learning, but I mean, it didn't take long to really understand what it needs to, what we need to say to get it to output what we want. And I guess in our world as well, now that we're bringing this into our product development departments, we're getting feedback from them. For example, maybe one was, why are the backgrounds always so neutral? Well, from our perspective, we want the background neutral for the product to stand out, but it's good feedback for us to be aware of and provide them back something that may be a little bit more interesting to the product or what they're looking, if it's mid-century modern or something like that. So it's learning now not only about the tool, but also working with our teams internally.
Yeah, and I think that it just you again speak to something great about having these AI tools now is that you can get that feedback in real time, and then the very next iteration can take that and apply that feedback immediately, and you're already off and running with a new set of imagery, right? So, um, definitely valuable there. So I've just blown up some of the sample output that the model came back with, so everyone can see. I think now, and I may lean on my team here now, just take a quick pause as to where we stand with the audience. Is there any questions? Anything? I'll just do a quick check-in. Any questions or feedback from the audience so far that we need to address?
John, there are some good questions on the Q&A chat bot. I think the panelists can answer those questions.
Okay. Let's take we'll take a little break here and let's look at some questions. I think, all right, there's one for Bree. So Bree, it looks like someone's asking, is Bree shooting all the product photography just using an iPhone, or your product team being shot in, say, China or or suppliers overseas?
We have a couple of different things that we're doing. So our factories, a couple of them have full kind of studios. So they'll take images through like a regular camera, kind of how you would at the beginning of a photography studio, upload those files, and then we'll edit them from there to get the color correction and the like white background and those things. Since I am a remote employee, I do not always get the chance to be able to take all of the images myself. But when I do it or when Ruby does it, who is the lady that does it in our office in Howard Elliott, we use our iPhone. So use the phone, just take it. We have a standard for each category on what angles we want for each thing, and how each thing is supposed to be named. And so we will take the pieces in each of those angles on our phone and then upload them to the system from there. So it's a little bit of a mix.
Okay. Perfect.
Same with
Thank you.
us.
Yeah. It's kind of all over yeah, it's a mix.
And the quality that we get with our phones, I mean, WizStudio cleans it up, corrects the lighting, adds a shadow. So for products that we have on the white background, that's great. We can use an iPhone. We use a DSL camera as well. So we're just using a number of tools. But the end result is really fabulous.
Yeah. And we set it up on our phones similar to like how you would in a studio. So we like have a white backdrop. We kind of have some things that eliminate some of the lighting. So we're using some pieces, but I've also done some of these in our showroom, like in Las Vegas or High Point, with just things, in the showroom at a random place, and have been able to get good siloed imagery out of it.
Yeah. Good. That's great. I think we're still waiting for the day, as is everybody, where there can be a one-stop shop tool for
Yeah.
everything, right? I don't think, we don't want to, as much as I would love to say that with studio is that, I think for photography, we're still living in a world where multiple tools are needed to do the full life cycle. But step by step, we're hoping to get there. I am seeing a lot of questions regarding some of the editing capability with the platform. So I quickly we can go through kind of some of those options. I'm curious, Bree, if you wouldn't mind, kind of what do you see yourself when you have to edit or change anything of an image? What do you typically notice that you're having to change, and how do you usually accomplish that?
Normally it's the size of a product or the lighting of the lighting of the room. The relight feature that they have is really great. That WizStudio has is really great. It gives a lot of options, and then the output of it is nice, depending on which one you're kind of looking for. I've taken really bright room scenes and made them a lot more moody, and had some where I really wanted like a studio effect that worked really well. Um, Most of the time I'll just use the AI edit feature and say like, hey, I wanted this wall color to be blue instead of green. Can you change that? Or, this part needs to be a little bit smaller. Can you change that? So
Yeah.
those are probably my most two used things that I would do. But I don't find myself editing the ones in WizStudio that often.
Oh, perfect. Oh, I mean, yeah. Trust me, not paying her to say that.
A couple of times I'll have to edit them a lot, but most of the time I get what I'm looking for firsthand.
Yeah, that's great. Kerri, any feedback from your team that you've heard as far as editing or needing edits?
No, I think at the beginning, it was just it was understanding how we needed to prompt it so that we refine the process. But it's very intuitive. Um, if it's a planter in the background you want it on, if you want it on a deck or a concrete patio or in a field, then it seems to be intuitive to know what plants to add, what color of plants to add. I mean, we may have to refine it a bit, but really it doesn't give us a rainy, cloudy day. It will give us a sunny day, but if we ask for a cloudy, overcast day, it will provide that as well. So we haven't really had any challenges other than I think when we add multiple items into a shot, just refining maybe the size relationship, but that's about it. and easily overcome.
Yeah, no, I think that's probably the biggest one that I hear is sizing. I think with WizStudio, we try by entering those dimensions that certainly helps, but we still notice from time to time there may be items that need tweaking. And just to quickly showcase the best kind of the best way that I've seen the capability to accomplish that, especially if it's just a slight edit, is this grab feature. So I can load up my scene here and then any object, I am able to grab that object out of the scene. And it doesn't even have to be one of the products that you uploaded. It can be anything in the scene that was generated. And we can kind of adjust the sizing and scale a little bit, move it around a little bit, and then actually go back and blend that object back into the scene. So that's one that I certainly wanted to. It's a somewhat recent enhancement, and one that we've seen really help with those small sizing adjustments needed. Also, just to highlight for everyone, while Bree was mentioning it, the relight feature, as you see here, this just quickly with the click of a button, I was able to change that lighting to what we call golden hour. So we have some presets here to accomplish that relighting, because that is another common one that's needed. Yeah, that. And then I know, of course, time flies by when you're having fun. So I'm gonna keep an eye on the clock here, and let me take a step back for the team, for us here, and just showcase. Wanted to showcase some other options, or just the other categories of product. I think I see in the chat that we've got quite a broad swath of audience members here. And just to showcase that, the tool can be used across multiple categories. And I think, Kerri, you mentioned that it's mainly where would you say you've used it across multiple categories? Have you seen kind of one be stronger than the other, or it's worked across pretty much every category you've tried it?
Worked across every category that we've tried it. I mean, we started with our apparel and fashion because we thought we'd get the biggest bang for our buck. And what is great, I mean, it's so realistic to, we had very static studio shots, and maybe we've had that particular shot for 10 years, I don't know. So we then told it, take this product on this model and make it into a lifestyle shot and add a dog. And amazingly it came back, or product shots that we would just have a static mug, we put more into a lifestyle shot, cozy room, this model, we want a calico cat, whatever we would ask, and we want steam coming out of the mug, so it's a hot beverage, and we were just wowed at what it could do.
I was actually double clicking on that. I was in a demo with someone. We were playing around with it, and they didn't even realize on their own product that there was a little display. It was like a coffee something that where you put a water on top of a kettle essentially, and it could heat up the water, and then it had the steam coming out of it, but it also had turned on the indicator on the bottom on the base of the unit that showed the temperature. And they didn't even realize that the product had that. Come to find out, it actually does have it, and it does light up and shows the temperature, but they never seen it that way because they're just looking at photography. That was kind of a funny funny thing to run into. Um, Also, something that I wanted to highlight and we didn't cover in the prompting, and this is interesting and maybe it's changed, but on a podcast, the Google CEO, if you notice here, we actually sometimes our team in the prompting will type in all uppercase. And funny thing, the AI thinks that you're somewhat yelling at it, so it actually listens more closely, and it's more effective if you type in all caps. Just a little tidbit for everyone out there. Been interesting behavior to notice.
Yeah, we also have light up products for Halloween, fall, holiday, etc. And so previously we would shoot the light up and then maybe with an inset, just show it, we'd shoot it on a background and then an inset, show it in the dark. So this is one product that we reimagined it, and sales went up almost 400% versus last year. So it was interesting. Now we have the capability to shoot it in a lit studio or with our iPhone, but then tell WizStudio to put it in an environment with the lights off and it's lit up, and it is remarkable how it not only did it improve sales, but visually it captured the lights.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's incredible. And so you're saying, if I heard that correctly, you said 400% the product sales went up for
400%, yeah. Versus all 400% since we reimagined the shot. It's been about 5 weeks. So in the 5 weeks, it's gone up 400% over total sales in 2025.
Wow, that's incredible. And I think that's an interesting use case too, because it's not only the opportunity to develop product imagery and photography for new releases, but it's an opportunity to go back to the catalog and refresh old product.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, in an analog type world, you'd have to get the product out, reshoot it, whatever, set up props or whatever, and then upload it. Where now it's kind of like this, we're seeing sales real time. Let's reimagine it. Let's change the background, do this, and now let's re-upload it and see. And the turnaround time is great. We can react quickly.
No, that's fantastic. Bree, anything that you all are noticing at Howard Elliott with being able to, is it mainly that you're using it for new rollouts, or are you going back and refreshing?
We try to go back and refresh some of the photography right now. I would say a large portion of it is going to new rollouts, mostly because we have such large introductions throughout market times. We just recently switched our introduction timeline to every 6 months instead of every 3, but at one point we were doing 200 plus products every 3 months. So it's kind of hard to go back and do everything for the old things or the older, more mature items than when you're constantly kind of working on new ones. But we do go back and refresh some of the imagery. I try to go in and give some of our best-selling ones some new images, especially for, e-commerce and things like that. So, and for when we're doing presentations, sometimes we'll have older pieces that we want for like catalogs and presentations that I'll try to get a better image for. If I notice that it's just a really bad lifestyle image while I'm scrolling through, sometimes I'll pop one in and get one out real fast so I can update it. The goal definitely is to try to update everything in the catalog and then kind of keep it on a cycle of being able to update everything after so many years. Trends change, things change. We'd like that photography to stay that way too. So that's definitely a larger goal. So we're squeaking some older things in there while bringing in some new stuff also.
It's nice to even have the option now, right?
Yeah. And it's much easier now because at the onset, doing older things, it would have been outsourcing it, waiting for it to get, photoshopped into a bunch of different pieces, and then getting back from the team, going through approval processes, telling them what you want to edit. The list goes on and on. Now it takes 5 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, truly, and this goes to what we were talking about. I mean, Kerri shared some of the business impact, but I think a lot of this is also so new that it can be even hard to fully grasp how this is going to impact business. And but the reality is just being able to do things, go to market so much faster, and it opens up so many different avenues for people like you all to explore. Some additional features and functionality we covered. I wanted to make sure to at least highlight and showcase some of it. This is that one of those bulk workflows that we've developed is some code called the variant builder. This could be used. We see a lot of our upholstery clients, furniture clients, as well as apparel. If you have a lot of swatches, different options for a product, to be able to quickly generate those products in each of the different color options. So as you can see here, this was you pick your product. We have this chair, and then you just upload all the different swatches. Got 5 examples here, and then immediately it spits back out to you that product with each color option loaded. And this is again another, I think, an area that we constantly hear of when if you're trying to sell online anywhere, having an actual image for each product in each variation, I think is a huge value add. Now, Bree or Kerri, is this something you know? I don't know if your teams have explored or dove into this too much yet, or am I mistaken there?
I don't, I haven't played too much with it. I actually just had a meeting with Sonia and Sunny last week to go over all of these different features. But I think we have some new fabrics that might be coming in the line that I'm gonna try to test this out with to see what we can get out of it.
Perfect.
We have with baby apparel line, we just released it, where we uploaded fabrics and put it on the actual onesies, etc. So it's just being released.
All right. Good. We'll dive in. I encourage you to dive in some more. And then quickly, just to show those dimensional drawings, there's an example there. You set your template, right? And we could even handle more kind of complex cases. The template is set, and then it can be used across, the idea here is that we're applying immediately those line drawings across products. And you can have various templates built out for different products. But all right, I'm getting the rug pulled out from underneath me. So I've been told I want to certainly want to go through some more of the questions. So folks, but before we end, I certainly want to make sure to share our discount for those that attended before you all have to hop off. We are offering a one-time coupon code, a 20% discount for WizStudio for first-time users that want to dive in and use the platform. And I think Shafali, do you have something to share there? There we go. So please, thank you all for attending. Please feel free to use the coupon code webinar20 when you go to sign up for WizStudio, and you'll get 20% off that first purchase. It is meant for first-time WizStudio clients, and will only apply to the plans, won't apply to the enterprise plan, but will apply to every other plan. Perfect. And then before we wrap up, we did want to showcase, we're very excited, where we'll be officially launching video capabilities. So you'll be able to develop product videos through WizStudio, and that will be launching this coming Friday. But we do have a short video to showcase some of the capabilities to expect. So I think Shafali, thank you much. If you want to pull that up for everyone. There we go. So for all those videos, all you'll have to do is upload some product photography and then a lifestyle. So all those videos were generated with a product photo and a lifestyle photo. And then it was just a specific use case, like 360-degree video or do a product close up. You'll have those kind of pre-selections or templates almost that you could select. And then, of course, you will be able to also prompt and develop your own scenes. So very excited for that. And so, yeah, I know we're at time. So thank you all so much for joining. Now, for those that want to hang on, please feel free to stay on. We'll hang out here for just a few more minutes and try to go through some more questions if that works for everybody. Bree, Kerri, you all game?
Yeah, we're good.
Yep.
All righty. I don't know, Shafali or Sunny, if you can help direct me. I think there are a lot of questions,
Yes.
which is
But
good.
then,
Thank you all. Thank you all for the feedback and the engagement.
and whoever is still on the call, in the chat, there is a link for signing up for a free trial as well as to book a demo if you want to try the software or if you have more questions that you want our team to answer. Yes, and John, I do you need help directing me to the Q&A section, is it?
No, I got it. So I think one of the first questions, I'm just going to go through and pick some questions here for us to go through. Um, so I guess we have Chloe asked, how does this use of AI affect the environment in comparison to other generative AI like ChatGPT or Gemini? And do you think that the benefits outweigh the costs? So I don't know, Bree or Kerri, do either of you have exposure to using ChatGPT or Gemini in the past? Otherwise, I can take that.
I use Gemini a lot, and
Okay.
on top of a lot of other things. Kerri, I don't know if you use any of. I don't really use ChatGPT, but I do use Gemini occasionally.
Yeah, how would you say that compares to WizStudio?
I think that sometimes the Gemini prompts don't always give me everything that I want out of it. It's obviously harder to edit because you can't kind of do things yourself. I think some of the output that I get from Gemini is really great, especially for something that I just want like super quick. But it doesn't have the same kind of like meat from it that I can do with WizStudio. I can do multiple pieces in WizStudio. I know you can kind of do that in Gemini sometimes, but I find that it's very difficult to get all of the products placed properly, get the sizing correctly. You can't really edit the sizing without further prompting. So I do find that to be a lot easier in WizStudio than anything else. I definitely like WizStudio better than Gemini. But I do use it occasionally. So I don't know. I'm sure you have more technical salesy things about the differences between the two.
I think no, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think the thing that I tell people the most is that Gemini and ChatGPT are great at specific use cases. One of the benefits of WizStudio is that we're actually connecting to, I think, we're connecting to multiple models. And we've engineered the platform to go to a specific model that does something better. So when WizStudio is asked to do certain things, it's not just relying on a single model to do that. It knows like, hey, to render humans, I'm going to use this one, or to render product, I'm going to go here. And so that's something that you don't get when you go directly to just one model. It may not be very good at generating a human, but it might be very good at some other things. So that's one thing. Another thing I would mention is that ease of use, right? Kerri, Bree, you both have talked about this. Tools today, they have to be easy to use. And that's where a platform like WizStudio, where it's been layered on top. You have this user experience that's been layered on top of the models to help with, multiple products, to help with prompting, to help with editing, to help with all these things that Gemini and ChatGPT just haven't been engineered to do. So that's my 2 cents. But I don't know, Kerri, do you have anything to add? Yeah.
Well, I think because we have a graphic design department, we use Photoshop. That's where we first started. And all the issues that we have, it was great for some things, but not, it would add things to the shot that we didn't want. Chat GPT, again, because we're, a design department, we don't really use it. But our PD teams do. They often, will upload an image for us, tell it what to do, and then give it to us to refine. But that's, again, it's not a graphics tool. It's not something that we find meets our requirements or has the capabilities.
Yeah. No, thank you for that. Looking at another question here. I think this is only fair. Like there's been a lot of praise on WizStudio. What would love to hear actually, just to make this more and more balanced. Any limitations? What limitations have you run into with WizStudio? And I actually get Sonia and the team to make sure they take notes here so they fix it. But anything come top of mind?
Um,
I
I can just speak to, again, when we started, it was understanding what the prompts, what we needed to prompt, get the output, what we wanted. Um, in one case, the animals that we said if we wanted a cat, well, the cat was like the size of a lion in the shot. So it was a size relationship issue. That has been resolved, but I'm going back several months. Again, putting multiple products in a shot. We also, we found the size relationship was a bit of an issue, but that's also been resolved. So those really have been our only challenges, is knowing what to tell it, the prompt that we need, and size relationship.
have some issues with the grab and go feature. And just coming from like using some other tools and things and the ease of just kind of the product, like the tool actually knowing like what product you might want to adjust. And then going from there, sometimes I find it tricky to do the grab and go part of it and like grab it, do whatever you need to it, and then figure out how to get it to blend back into that. Sometimes it works like right off the bat. I don't have any issue. We deal with a lot of mirrors. So sometimes it's very difficult to get a good realistic reflection, especially if you're having to make it larger or make it smaller. So sometimes I have issues with kind of like the reflection of a mirror, and then how tedious sometimes that like adjusting the size of a piece can be.
Right. Okay. There, we did our due diligence, right? Fair and balanced. No, but
Fair
thank
enough.
you, thank you both for sharing. I think if I could grab, maybe we'll just hang out for a couple more minutes. I'm shocked. Still quite a few people here. So I think we accomplished our goal. But here's a question: how many angles of a product do you need to upload for it to portray accurate angles in a lifestyle shot? Great question from Christy. I think. Well, I guess I'll lean on you all. Any exposure experience there? Bree, I guess I'll start with you.
I I really only ever do the front angle. If I want something really drastic, like sometimes, like going back to the mirror situation that we have, like sometimes we have some mirrors that are like they stick out and so the shape is different, or we have large artwork that has kind of like some depth to it. I'll do like a 3/4 angle of it. But a lot of the time I'll put the dimensions in kind of, 12 high, 15 wide, 10 deep, whatever, and then describe it and say to it like, I need this to show the depth of it. Can you put this at whatever the angle is? I feel like it's more of the prompt than it is the actual image itself. I've been able to get a lot of angles and a lot of different things just by using the front facing part of it or the 3/4 angle, and then getting away with more of it based on what I tell the prompt to do with the lifestyle. Um, so I've gotten a lot of good angles out of just using it that way.
Perfect. And Kerri, have you noticed
Yeah,
anything?
yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't use it every day, but when I started using it and presenting it to our PD teams, I did take a picture with my iPhone, and I did take a picture of the iPhone and put it on a white background. Then we had our meeting, and that's when I uploaded it and I shared with them the prompts. We talked about what prompts are we going to put in. And one thing I don't think we mentioned is you don't just get one shot, you get multiple shots to look at and choose from. And if you need to reprompt, you reprompt. But what it did, I took a picture of shelf sitter straight on, and what we got back was it at a 3/4 angle. So I did not ask for that. I did not tell it to do that, but I was amazed that it actually could do that. And we went back, we had the product there, we looked at it. It was pretty accurate to the product. So yeah, it's interesting. I didn't have to tell it to do a 3/4. I just shot it straight on.
Yeah. I find that it picks up on it. I feel like it will look at whatever it is that you're giving it and then make an assessment basically, and then put it in whatever kind of angle that it feels like it will show the product best as.
Yeah. No, I think, and that's something to throw in my experience as well in talking to a lot of vendors here. One I've noticed it's one of the strong suits is that, as you both have mentioned, because the models they've been trained with certain industries in mind, it can take a scene and it can take products and place into that scene just naturally. It knows how things should be placed, so you don't need to upload all these different angles. It will do it for you. And then one other comment I will make, something that we struggle with a little bit, but we've kind of solved for it especially with very design centric brands where maybe it's like drinkware, right? A tumbler that has a pattern or design, and you're wanting to do kind of get a different angle, back angle of the product versus the front. And if the pattern is different, we have noticed it really helps to upload not only the product image, the front facing, but then you maybe upload a picture of the back of the product as well. And so WizStudio can then take all that into consideration to make sure that the full design is the pattern is actually adhered to no matter what angle it's being situated at. So that's something I've certainly seen help, especially if the pattern is really very specific.
I've run into that issue with some of our like textiles, and then we'll tell it after it's generated something like this scene is great, but the back of this needs to match the front of this, and then it will regenerate and fix it to whatever it needs to.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think let's do one more, and then I think we'll call it. For everyone on, thank you again, and we'll certainly hopefully got most of these questions answered by my team. And I mean, I think we might have to have another session. Honestly, this was a hit.
Another area we didn't talk about was jewelry. We also sell jewelry, and that was very interesting. Rather than having to get a model in for the jewelry, I mean, it was interesting that we could take the jewelry and WizStudio would put it on a wrist or on a neckline, what have you, and that was great for presentation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or socks. Socks is another one. I mean, putting it on an actual model as opposed to, here's a sock laid out on a white background, put it on a model.
Yeah, and I will say, I think it was primarily because of what you all were doing on Kerri at Ganz, is that it's honestly kind of creepy to me just how realistic AI humans look now. It's very difficult to tell the difference. It's gotten very good at generating all of that. I guess one final question we'll cover. This is actually I think this would be a useful one. We got Caesar had asked, how many generations are you all finding does it take to get to output that you find acceptable and you want to use? And Bree, maybe we'll start with you.
Normally, like on a regular given day, I would say anywhere between 2 and 5. Most of the time, I get it right off the bat. Whatever it is that I'm looking for, most of the time I get it in one of the first 4 generations of whatever prompt I've used. But on like an average, probably like 2 to 5 different generations. And sometimes I'll even just go through and check out the other prompts just to see if maybe I like what the output is better than what the first one is that I got. I have had a time where I've had to do multiple. I know that Div, I think, stroked out because I said that we had to do like 90 iterations on one image. Now that's like an outlier. I've only had to do that like twice. Um, but I did one time go through and do a lot of iterations on one image just to be able to get it exactly where I wanted it. And it was, move this plant to the left a little bit, add this to this part, add this to, change the lighting, whatever it was. But for the most part, if I don't get it on the very first try, which happens a lot, I get it between 2 and 5.
Okay, good. Good. What about you, Kerri? Any
I
feedback?
probably I'd say the same. If it's a new product we're trying out, maybe a little bit more until we understand what we're looking at. More recently, we've been testing it on our displays. So typically we would get a display for a product, and then maybe we would get four of the product to fill the display. So we would go into Photoshop and step and repeat. And there was a lengthy process there, having to make each one as it got back into the back of the display, smaller, smaller, smaller. Now we're using WizStudio for that. So at the beginning, maybe it took us a little bit of understanding to what to prompt with, but it's great feature because now we don't need the products to be sent to us when even we have production, because now we've already done it. We've filled the display with the product. It looks realistic. But I would say maybe, yeah, 2 to 5, exactly like Bree.
Yeah. Good. No, I mean, good. It's great feedback, and it's something that we here with Studio, we're actually highly focused on it because the way that as you all are aware, the way that we price the platform is we're only charging everybody on accepted output, right? So downloads. And so we need to keep it up. We're incentivized to keep an eye on those generations because those are actually what cost us money. And so the lower that we can keep the number of generations, the easier we can get it for you all to get acceptable output. It's a win-win, right? Because that's how we get paid, and that's how you get good product imagery. So, um, all right, we'll leave it at that. As a reminder to everybody in the chat, please, there's a link for free trial link for WizStudio. Webinar 20 is the coupon code. If you 20% off your first purchase of credits, feel free to use the platform for free. We offer a 2-week free trial with a number of generations and actually five credits in there for you to play around with it. But outside of that, again, thank you all for attending today. This was great. And thank you, Bree and Kerri, for your expertise.
Thanks for inviting us.
Yeah.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Take care. Bye.